Hey guys, welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle, and today I'm going to show you not only how to straighten your fringe, but also how to cut it super straight. So let's get started. This video is brought to you by the Spruce and Linen shop, where you can find weaving looms, kits, tools, and supplies. Link in the description box below. Today we're actually going to try a method of cutting our fringe that I have never done before, and that is using a laser level. So I recently purchased one of these for some home reno projects that we're working on. But then I suddenly realized that this would be so perfect for cutting super straight fringe and not having to measure it. So first I'm gonna kind of briefly show you how I would normally cut straight fringe, and then we're gonna try it with the laser level. The one that I purchased, and this isn't sponsored, but I will throw some links in the description for you, and they will be affiliate links, so I might get a small kickback if you do purchase through those links, which just goes to help to support the YouTube channel. So this one that I got is called the Bosch Professional GLL 30. That 30 just means that it can, I think, span the line up to 30 feet. So this I picked up at Home Depot, but again, I will throw some links. So what's really handy about this is that it just fits on a normal tripod. So I already have my little tripod, what's it called? I don't know, fitting on here. But it also comes with this little arm that you can use to put it on the laser level and then clamp to something like a ladder, a table, whatever you've got. First, let's talk about the way I would normally cut straight fringe. So normally when I do this process, I will have my super sharp scissors and a construction measuring tape. So it just like stands up on its own essentially. And then what I would go ahead and do is measure from the top of the dowel down. So let's say I wanted it 29 inches long for the total. I would make a snip there, and I would do that all the way across, and then I would go back in and I would kind of eyeball it the rest of the way, and then just keep doing that until it looks really straight. So what I'm hoping this will do is make this process a lot simpler. Now, of course, a laser level is a bit of an investment, but I have a feeling I'm going to really enjoy this process. So first things first, let's straighten out the actual yarn of the fringe, which we're going to do with a steamer. So I get questions about this all the time. Any little clothing steamer works for this. So again, I'll throw some links in the description box below for you. So literally all you're gonna do is steam. Now, don't be like me and do this directly on your wall. It could affect or damage your paint on your wall. But for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna do it against the wall just so it's easier for you to see. But literally, all I'm gonna do is turn on my steamer and just start going through on the yarn. And you'll see, I'll try to do one section here so you can really see how much it like straightens out. But can you see how this is straightened and this isn't? It makes such a huge difference. So when I very first started making woven wall hangings, I would do this with like, or attempt to do it with like a straightener, which is obviously extremely tedious and has more chance of wrecking your yarn depending on what kind of yarn you're using. So I'm just gonna keep going through and really making sure I get all the different pieces. You can really see it straighten out there. And I am kind of flipping it to sort of get the back layer as well. It's like kind of like blow drying hair in a way, but you're steaming it instead. Now I might even kind of come from the back to really make sure it's all straight, because you really want to make sure everything's as straight as possible before you start cutting, just so that things don't end up shifting a bunch afterwards. Now I'm just really trying to make sure the bottom is nice and straight. And this is one of the reasons I really like using applied yarn. This is a 3-ply, I believe, yarn for my fringe, because single ply, more like a roving yarn, is actually going to want to curl back up later. But I find this plied yarn does a good job of just staying put more. So that looks pretty good to me. And again, like, it doesn't need to be completely perfect, but you can see now it is like 1,000 times straighter than it was before. So that's going to give us a really good starting point. So I'm going to turn my steamer off now. And then I am going to go in with just my weaving comb here to just make sure that everything is really nice and not tangled up, because that can affect how the yarn is sitting as well. All right, so that's looking really good. We've got really nice, straight, even fringe now. Before you start cutting your fringe, you're going to want to use a little level and make sure that your weaving is sitting perfectly level on the wall. So this particular laser level that I have is self-leveling. So once you turn it on, it essentially is like floating in there, the actual laser, and it will level itself out automatically, which is obviously super, super handy. So then if you do have it on an uneven surface, it doesn't matter. It will level out and make sure that line is straight. But you need to make sure that your piece is sitting level on the wall. So again, I just have a normal little level here, and I'm going to set it on top of my dowel, and it's sitting pretty straight right now, but I'm just gonna really make sure it's as straight as possible. Keeping in mind that yes, things can shift while you're working on them, but we're just looking for like as level as we can. So that looks pretty good there. And now I can set up this laser level. So the only thing that you really need to worry about, again, I'm just using a tripod, but if all you had was a stack of books, I have a table right here, you could just stack books and set this on top. That would be fine as well. But I have a camera tripod, so that's what I'm going to use. So I'm just gonna set this up in front of the weaving. And we're gonna kind of figure out what length, and I'm gonna zoom out for you here so you can kind of see my tripod. So depending on what the length that you want your fringe at will depend on obviously how high up you're putting the laser level. So I'm going to turn this on, and you can see the lines there now, right? You can see how it's pointing right at the weaving. And when I move it, it kind of turns off because it's trying to level itself. So looking at that now, I can definitely set the laser a little bit lower. So I'm going to do that. So you might not see me here, but I'm simply just going to make sure that it's at the right height. And this is a laser, obviously, so make sure you're never looking into the laser and damaging your eyes. That would not be good. So once I stop moving, it can level itself out, and that's looking pretty good there. I do have one piece that appears to be quite short compared to the others, but I'm not gonna worry too much about that. So that looks like a good length to me. So you can really see that line pointing there. And I am so excited about this because it's going to make this process so much easier, because there's a consistent line here pointing at the weaving rather than you having to measure constantly to make sure it's good. So I'm just going to start cutting on that line. Keep in mind that as you're cutting, you are gonna kind of be covering up that line a little bit. So line up your scissors and make a snip. And what's nice is that after I do that first layer, I can sort of see behind here a little better, and I can get those. And oh my goodness, you guys, that makes it so much easier. Oh, this is going to be one of my best purchases for weaving. And again, you do want to make sure you have really sharp scissors. I just got these a little while ago, and they are LDH scissors. I of course got the black ones because they're beautiful, but they make really good quality scissors, and they're a really reasonable price, and I love them. Wow, this has got to be the easiest this has ever been. So then what I'm going to continuously do as I'm cutting is I'm going to gently comb out the fringe again because again, sometimes those yarns can get kind of caught up on each other and sit higher than they're supposed to. See, now I'm having to sit quite far back because I've got my laser so far back. So what I'm going to do actually now, again, it's self-living, I'm gonna move it a little bit closer. So now I'm just going in and trimming more. And wow. Oh my goodness, you guys. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but this is actually my first time trying this out. But as soon as I got the laser level, I was like, oh my goodness, this would work so well for cutting fringe. And it definitely works super well. So I can see that I'm a little bit off on this side. So I'm going to just come over here, which is really awkward because I'm right-handed, but you can kind of lean over. This is where having it higher would have been a little easier. When it comes to straight fringe, it really only, I'm gonna duck down here. It really only needs to be straight enough that to the eye it looks straight. Personally, I'm never striving for absolute perfection because the thing about yarn is that it shifts, it moves, it bounces. And so even if you cut the straightest line, as soon as I move this weaving, that could become quickly unstraight again. The trickiest part with cutting straight fringe is not going too far, because it's really easy to cut off a little bit too much and then you're getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So I'm trying to only take off a tiny bit at a time. So kind of how I'm deciding to do this is I'm trying to get it so that I'm just cutting off enough that the light is no longer shining on the yarn. I'll do one last pass and I'm going to double check. Oh, see, I bounced that. I'm going to double check that it is still level at the top, and it is, so that's good. So you want to check that obviously, because if that starts to get crooked, you're going to be cutting your fringe at an angle. Now, don't get me wrong, like cutting straight fringe isn't for everyone, and it's totally fine if you're more of a fan of the uneven fringe just because it's easier. I've done that a lot lately where I'm just like, I'm kind of over cutting it straight because of the extra time that it takes and patience. And like I said, you definitely need to have sharp scissors when you do this so that you can take off really small amounts. All right, I think I'm gonna call that good. Let's shut this off and take a look at the fringe. Now, is it perfect? Nope, it's not perfect, but it is pretty dang close, if I do say so myself. So this is cutting super straight fringe with a laser level, and can I get an amen? That was so much easier. It really just simplified the process. Again, a laser level is definitely a bit of an investment because, I mean, the one that I purchased was around $90 Canadian, which I don't know what that would be, probably $75 or less US. But that to me is super worth it. Again, I'm not just using my laser level for the purpose of cutting fringe. However, would I invest in one just for this? Probably. Now that I know what that is like, I would highly, highly recommend it. That just made it so much easier. There is no guessing, there's no eyeballing it, and it just really simplifies and streamlines that whole process. So if you are a fan of straight fringe, or maybe you get a lot of requests to have straight fringe, this is definitely the way to do it. Like I said, I will put some links in the description box below for you with some different price points. But a couple of features to look out for is this self-leveling, super, super handy. And it has to be the kind like I showed you here where it shines onto the wall. So I used to have or I still do, have a different style of laser level where it actually attaches to the wall and shines out this way. That's not gonna work for this simply because your yarn is going to be too thick. So it's meant to shine on a very flat surface, being your wall. So you definitely want one of this style that points at the wall from, you know, over here. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is something that I had never done before, and I was pleasantly surprised with how easy that was. I am always looking for ways to make things more efficient, especially the things that are not enjoyable. Because let's be real, cutting straight fringe is not exactly like the fun part about weaving, but that certainly made it feel so much better because you just, again, you have that reference line and you don't have to worry that maybe you're getting off and have to remeasure a million times, which is the way that I used to do it, to be perfectly honest. So if you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.